From inventing Chanel No. 5 perfume to little black dresses, Coco Chanel has been acknowledged in fashion history for all of her achievements. But how many of us actually know about her past and her personal life? Today we're going to talk about Coco Chanel and her scandalous past. My name is Aaliyah J. If you're new here, make sure you are subscribed because I post a lot of fashion history videos and I'm going to be posting a lot more. I'm going to be doing a really simple makeup look today. It's not going to be anything crazy. My outfit is going to be based on the Chanel brand. Gabrielle Bonheur Chanel was born in 1883. Very long time ago. She was born to a woman named Eugene, and Eugene was a laundry woman at a charity hospital. And her dad's name was Albert Chanel. It's crazy to think that like most of the popular brands out nowadays, it's like people's actual last names back then. Like we don't even see it as that. Albert Chanel was a street vendor and he was not the best dad, okay? He was not present, he was not there. And so for work, he basically like peddled garments and like clothing and stuff. Basically, he was a booster, okay? We all know what that is. He sold a lot of illegal or stolen items on the street. That was his way of making money. So Chanel was one of 5 children. She had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Did you guys know that her last name is actually spelled wrong? So when she was born, on her birth certificate, they put Chanel with the S. And it never got corrected because her mom was very unwell. She was just very sick, I guess, after the birth. You know, back then they didn't really have like much medicine. And her father was not present because he was traveling and I guess selling clothes or whatever. Her name on her birth certificate actually stayed as Chanel with an S because she never changed it. And if she did decide to legally change it, first, it would be hard. 2, it would have revealed that she was actually born in a poorhouse hospice, which basically is kind of like a shelter. You know, her family was not rich. They was very poor. So it would have revealed like where she was born. So she just never changed it. When Chanel was like 11 or 12, around that age, her mother passed away. Sadly, her mother passed away at the age of 32, which is so young. But we don't know the cause of death that her mother passed away, but we know that her mom passed away at that age. Her father, being a street vendor, you know, basically just hustling out here trying to make ends meet and having 5 kids, he just did not know what to do with these children or like just how to get by, you know, like they were poor. He was always outside trying to make it happen. He was jugging and finessing, girl. He decided to send the boys to work on a farm and he decided to send the girls to an orphanage. So he just basically gave up his kids. It's actually documented that later on in life, Chanel would tell stories about her childhood and it would actually be the total opposite to like how her actual childhood was. Like she told a completely different story. She'd be like, I lived in like this glass house and it had like a fish tank in it. We just like owned sharks. And like when I was like 2, my dad gave me diamonds. She really did glamorize like her life, even though it wasn't glamorous. As I said, she was an orphan. She was born in a poor house. She lived in a shelter. They didn't have money. And she actually told the story that her dad sailed to America to like gain his fortune and like become rich or whatever, when it's like, girl, he's right there on the corner selling a jacket. What are you talking about? Like he just stole that. She also told that she like lived with her aunt and like basically didn't live in a shelter. She also lied about what year she was born. We still do that to this day. Now, of course, we don't know these things to be 100% true because anyone that was born back in the year that Chanel was born is not here today. So we don't know these things for 100%. But this is what was documented, okay? I didn't make this up. Honestly, I have to say, I understand because when you come from like such a like poor beginning and you want to get far, it really is kind of embarrassing, you know? Like it's embarrassing to tell people like, yeah, well, I was born in a shelter and like I didn't have money and like all the clothes I wore were stolen. Like it happens, but it is kind of embarrassing to say, you know what I'm saying? We all have like embarrassing stories that kind of made us who we are. So I get it, girl. I get it, Chanel. But anyway, so while Chanel was living at the orphanage, she learned how to sew. A lot of people think that this is why Gabrielle was so successful with her brand Chanel later on in the years, because she just learned about fashion early. And she basically became like a seamstress at a really early age, you know. At the age of 18, she basically had to leave the orphanage because she was of age, you know, she was older now, and she couldn't reside there anymore because of her age. And so she actually moved to a boarding house for Catholic girls. And because she learned how to sew at such an early age, she found a job becoming an actual seamstress. So she was getting paid for actually sewing this time. And that was only one of her jobs. Gabrielle had plenty of jobs, and one of her other jobs was being a cabaret girl. So she would basically sing, and she usually made money for the day because while she was singing, they would pass around a plate and the audience would put money and tips on top of the plate, and that's how she made some of her money. As we already discovered, her name was Gabrielle, but she got the name Coco because she used to sing this song that had the words "Coco, Coco" in it. And the actual song was called "Who Has Seen Coco?" Chanel was on stage like, "Coco, Coco." And so this put her in the field of being a performer. Honestly, her singing voice was not that good, and she couldn't find any work because of it. Like, she didn't really get any far because I'm sure people were kind of like, "Do you hear that girl? She sounds like a creep." With her not being able to find any stage work, she was kind of like, you know what? Screw singing. This is not who I am. This is not in my future. F this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm about to go outside. With her realizing that performing and singing was just not like her thing, she met this young French guy. And he went by the name of Etienne Balsan. If that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure. But Etienne was super wealthy, super cute, super young, and he was born into a family of wealth. And his family was actually the inventors and manufacturers of carpet and like carpet textiles and flooring and etc. Like, they were making that chicken, okay? With Chanel, me, and Etienne, she actually ended up becoming his mistress. And they started fooling around for about 3 years. It's getting spicy. They actually like messed around so much that she ended up living with him at his house, which I'm actually kind of confused about, because if that was his mistress, how was she in the house? Was the wife going for that? Because that means he has a wife, right? Anyways, while they lived together, Etienne spoiled Chanel. Like, when I say spoiled, like, okay, he bought her diamonds, he bought her so much stuff. He just like spoiled her. He put her like in the like rooms with all the like big people, and just like he bought her so many like designer clothes. He bought her literally everything she wanted. She was living that good old mistress life. And it's actually rumored that Chanel actually had a child named Andre, who is actually her sister's child. Her sister only had one child named Andre, and people have went around saying that it's actually Chanel's kid with Etienne, and Chanel just basically gave it to her sister and decided to just like, you know, live out her dreams, etc. So later on down the line, Chanel was kind of getting tired of Etienne, and she found another guy that she really liked, and his name was Arthur Edward Boy Capel, and this happened in 1909, hence the nickname Boy. As we all know, Chanel has a really popular handbag named the Boy bag. So if you really look back into like the history of these brands, a lot of things that they have or they name or they put on their clothing has a lot to do with the history of the actual fashion designer. A lot of these high-end fashion brands really try to stick with the designers like real life history or like their beliefs and stuff like that. I actually really love the Chanel Boy bags, and I think that kind of was like a genius idea to name it the Boy bag, because she was in love with Arthur Boy. Okay, so we're gonna call him Boy. And Boy was super wealthy. Like, he had chicken. That man had money. He might have had more money than Etienne, I'm not sure, but he had money, and he spent it on Chanel. He was an English polo player, and he is the guy who actually put Chanel in her first apartment in Paris. Not only did he put her in her first apartment, but he also financed her first shop. Like, he went all out. Like, Etienne, like, you know, he gave her diamonds and little materialistic things, but Boy, he like actually set her up for life so she could be good. And I think it's clear that, you know, Boy's style really influenced Gabrielle. Like I said, one of the bags that she has is named the Boy bag, which I actually don't think she had part in. I think she was deceased by the time the Boy bag came out. I'm not sure. I have to do more research on that. But he did have a lot of influence on the No. 5 perfume that Chanel released, which was actually one of the first perfumes and world history, and he had a lot of influence on it. The bottle shape was made to look like the whiskey bottle that Boy usually used and drank out of, and the two spent actually like 9 to 10 years together. Like, they were in love, okay? Chanel had really high hopes of them like being together for the rest of their lives. Not Boy. Boy was like, I gotta go. He did not want to be like faithful to her, and she was kind of just like, you know what, I'm over it. Like, he just could not commit to her. While they like spent a lot of time together, he ended up marrying someone else. Her name was Diana Wyndham. So Boy married Diana Wyndham in 1918, and while he married Diana, he was still messing around with Chanel. Like, yes, he was still messing around with Chanel. She was the mistress in the first place. After he married Diana, he actually ended up dying a year later in a car accident. Chanel was devastated. Like, she was so upset. Literally, like, her whole life was turned upside down. And it's quoted that she said, "When I lost Capel, I lost everything." After a while, Chanel is just like, you know, trying to get back into the groove and just like, you know, get back to life. She started seeing another man. He was the Duke of Westminster. I'm about to shock you guys, because when I was doing my research, I looked up like the Duke of Westminster because I seen that Chanel had dated him, and it came up that in his family tree, Diana Wyndham was in there somewhere. Yes, when I seen this information, I was mind blown. The Duke of Westminster was Diana Wyndham's first husband's half brother. So basically her ex's brother. Chanel was like, oh, you want to steal my man? I'm gonna steal your ex-man's brother. I had to do a lot of research because when I tried to wrap my mind around it, I was like, what? Like, I could not get it because I was so confused. I'm dumb as hell. One thing I have learned about Gabrielle Coco Chanel is that she is a savage. She was a savage, okay? She don't play. She is not the one to play with. She is not one of them. Honestly, we can't really look at it like, oh, that's so crazy, because back in the day, and of course like 1900s, 1800s, it was normal to like date your cousin or someone that was just like related to someone else that you really knew. Like, everything was kind of really small. Like, the world wasn't as big as it is now, you know? Sometimes, like, now we date outside because a lot more people go outside. We have social media. Before, it was like they just had little towns and everybody kind of just knew everybody, you know? So it's not really that shocking, but it's just funny. So the Duke was super, super wealthy, and he bought her really extravagant gifts. One thing about Chanel is she loved her extravagant gifts. And he actually ended up buying her actual house. Now, I actually wasn't supposed to talk about this part, but the home that she lived in, I think it was actually made into a museum, if I'm not mistaken. Their affair lasted about 10 years. And it's actually said that the Duke discriminated against Jewish people, and he was very vocal about his homophobia. Like, very, very vocal. So after a while through the Duke, Chanel had met a man named Lombardi, and then she met Lombardi's cousin. It's about to get really good. The cousin of Lombardi was the Prince of Wales, who was named Edward VIII. Allegedly, he was flirting and blushing when he first met Chanel, and he actually knew about her involvement with the Duke of Westminster, and he gave no F's, okay? He did not care one bit. Word actually went around town that he actually went to Chanel's home and visited her. That was like a big thing back then, you know? Like, now we could call each other on the phone. To see me, you gotta pop up at my house. And he actually requested for Chanel to call him David, which was actually a privilege that only close friends and family had. They ended up having a very, very, very passionate love. In 1927, the Duke gave Chanel some land that he had already owned on the French Riviera. And Chanel took it, and she ended up building a villa there. She hired an architect, and together they planned to make it look like the orphanage that she grew up in, which I think is actually really great, because it was probably like a full circle moment for her, you know? Like, look at where I came from and look at where I'm at, period. People actually used to question Chanel a lot of why she didn't marry the Duke of Westminster, and this is what she said. There have been several Duchesses of Westminster, there is only one Chanel. I mean, if that's not a period moment, what is? Like I said, she was a savage, okay? A savage. Like, she didn't play no games. And this is actually around the same time of when she created the little black dress. A lot of people don't know this, but Chanel was the person to put the little black dress aesthetic on the map with the help of Vogue magazine. And the little black dress, it kind of like displayed a lot of like her personal emotions in life. She was just becoming much more of a simple woman. She wasn't as like extravagant. Well, she was still extravagant, but just more in like a simple, classy way. And her entire aesthetic became like the less is more. So at the beginning of World War II, Chanel closed her shops, which resulted in 4,000 females losing their jobs. She said, and I quote, "It is not a time for fashion." It's actually a lot of other things that happened in between this time and the reason why she closed the shop. Like, for instance, one of them, her being a spy. I'm gonna talk about that in another video though, so make sure you are subscribed so that you see the notification. So with her closing down her shops, she decided to move to Switzerland. And when she moved to Switzerland, she had a new man, and his name was Dinklage. She was actually in hiding for a really long time, and the Chanel brand just didn't exist. But after a while, she did decide to reopen the Chanel brand. When she decided to open it back up, she was older than 70 years old, and it had been 15 years since the brand was open. Okay, so I finished doing my hair. This is my hair for today. After being closed down for about 15 years, she decided to bring the Chanel brand back. And the person who helped her revive her brand was her friend, Pierre Wertheimer. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, but his name was Pierre. They actually ended up having beef, and they became opponents, which will also be in the next story about Chanel. But when she finally decided to come out with her new collection, the French were really scared about it because of all the like scandals and controversy she had around herself. But the American and British press ate it up, okay? And that's how she really got ahead, because people really still loved her brand. In 1971, Chanel was 87 years old. She decided to go for a long drive on a Saturday afternoon. And supposedly she was feeling really ill this day, and she decided to actually go to bed really early. And before she went to bed, she said to her maid, "You see, this is how you die." She actually ended up dying the very next day on Sunday. So Chanel never married anyone, and she never had any children besides the rumored son that she had, which was her actual nephew. Most of her estate was inherited by her nephew Andrew and his children, and Andrew actually ended up committing suicide. He had lived in Switzerland where Chanel had moved, and his two daughters had lived in Paris. So I'm gonna put on my outfit. So here's the full look. I got this jacket from Zara, necklace from Chanel, earrings from, I believe, Target, and rings are just from various places. But that was a fashion history segment. I hope you guys enjoyed. I decided to do like a little like Chanel look. Chanel was really into like the tweed and the houndstooth, and I'm into tweed and I'm into houndstooth, so it was only right. I hope you guys really enjoyed that video. I have a lot more stuff to share with you guys and a lot more fashion history videos to do. So if you want to see the rest of those, make sure you are subscribed. And if you are already subscribed, make sure that your post notifications is on so that you can get alerted when I post new videos. So I hope you guys truly enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.